All right. Tino, I've always been wired right brain first. Creativity came easy. Storytelling, guerrilla marketing, sales, that's been my world. But there was always this tension, this invisible force pulling me into rooms I didn't fully understand. And this is before we met at school. So that's what I'm kind of leaning into. But finance, forecasting, hard systems thinking, I hated the idea of outsourcing that stuff. So I did something most people didn't. I leaned into my weaknesses and I dove into an MBA focused program at Indiana. That's where you and I met. Now, I went into finance and I went into investment banking. And what always stood out to me, what I've learned about you, is that we were having this kind of similar kind of trajectory. You've got, and correct me if I'm wrong, to me, you've got this incredible creative muscle, strong, but you also seem to recognize maybe some of the weaknesses and you built this structure around it. So this is why I want to open up and building up to this, but why economics and finance? Why build that muscle when you, of all people, already have this right brain gift that most would kill for?
It was all about tools and leverage.
Thank you.
So my first career was an advertising producer. I had a number of art scholarships out of high school. Um, but despite that, I dropped out of college because I interned before I went to college. And I saw such a huge disconnect between my internship in Paris at a big photo studio and the curriculum. I dropped out after 6 weeks, cashed out the money, and cut loose. I was able to leverage the internship in Paris to get a photo assistantship. And then, I became a production coordinator, location scout, then a producer working in Detroit, then Los Angeles, and invited back to Paris where I spent 7 years for that company. And after 12 years of that, and after dabbling in the stock market, um, experiencing Black Monday in 1987, um, that led to a greater interest in economics and finance and how the world worked than the anticipation that I would have another 25 or 30 years of more or less the same thing in the advertising industry. So I left the industry in 95, not realizing that computers would completely rip that industry up and like shred it to pieces. Um, and that's when I came back to the US, enrolled at a community college, did 51 credits in 12 months, got a full ride to the University of Michigan, finished the economics degree in 3 years, and then they entered Indiana with you in '99, and that was the story. I interned at an investment bank in 2000, but with the dot-com bust and then 9/11.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
had
I
30 interviews between New York and London, not a single offer.
Dude, don't take me back. I remember specifically one thing that you may not know is I actually accepted an offer coming out with UBS Warburg, and my office would be in Dallas. So Lynn and I, my wife, we moved down to Dallas where she found a position, but I was to spend 6 months up in New York training. And this is, we graduated May 4th, 2001. You start normally in September. That my start date was September 10th. 10th floor, North Tower. September 10th, 2001. We moved down 2 weeks before. The Monday before, this is September 3rd, I called and rescinded my offer. Because everyone I met, all the people I'd met, dude, and you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say everybody was on their third or fourth marriage. They worked 90 to 100 hours a week. It was all testosterone locker room talk. And yeah, I just wasn't in the mood for that whole game. So I struggled with it all summer and I pulled out. And there we are sitting on the couch on that Tuesday. and watching what the hell, a commuter plane hit one of the whoa, there's another big plane. What the so right there with you. And then trying to find a gig in finance or investment banking after that. Goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It
Well,
was
I
it was a time, wasn't it?
yeah, indeed, indeed. I mean, it was, but I, if nothing, I picked up the concept of economic cycles during my education, and so I went back to Detroit and I did turnarounds consulting for a few years, and that was the same, drinking through a fire hose type of learning experience that I wanted out of banking,
Yeah.
and
Did you
and
enjoy parts of it?
yeah.
I mean, you're always, it seems like every new project, every new turnaround comes with a new set of challenges.
Hmm.
So it's always like drinking from a fire hose, but there's learning. I'm imagine though, after a while it gets old. Were you a road warrior at that time?
Not too much,
Okay.
not too much because it was so the first company I worked for was Plant and Moran. It was a regional CPA firm, and they had a turnarounds group. And then the second company was Ford Motor Company's go-to for all of their supply chain risk post 9/11. And so doing fairly menial tasks. You know, uh, one of asset-based loan schedules, receivables
Yeah.
schedules, 13-week forecasts, learning about bankruptcy law, um, going through the CIRA certification process. It was all fun. It was all good learning. It was all a great baseline. After that, I met my ex and moved to Ohio, and I got my first job truly overseeing a company. So I was hired on as accounting manager, as for a little $12 million company that grew to 85 million in the 5 years I was there. So I reported to the CEO of North and South America. So during that growth phase, anything that my boss didn't have time to do, which was practically everything, was was delegated down to either me or one of my there were at the end of at the end of that 5 years we were four divisions, and so it got handed down to either me or one of my counterparts in finance in the other three divisions, or the operations director in each of those companies. So it was truly a position of responsibility, a position where I could propose, leverage my right brain wild ass ideas and get them approved or not approved very quickly. For example, we had just acquired one company. We were at, I don't know, the combined group, Canada and the US was around 25 million, and we acquired a company, Ferry Morse Seed, for about 40 million. Most of that was on floating rate debt. And the and one day I saw LIBOR invert during the 2000, the post 2008, 2009 Lehman Brothers. And I thought, oh my God, we can fix this debt as opposed to, have it float. And so I put together the model, illustrated the scenario, and it was immediately sent to the board member in charge of that. He was vacationing in France. He got it approved in a day or two, and we executed on the trade. And well, he was wise. Instead of doing 100% hedge, which would have been speculation, actually, he said reconfigure this to be 50% over the term, over the principal. And that was the right move, because over 18 months, it dispersed like $300,000 per quarter to our favor. But overnight, LIBOR flipped, and I didn't have the presence of mind to do a stop loss of some sort, and it flipped the other way for the subsequent 3 quarters. And so, hero one day and and a loss maker the other day. In the end, it fulfilled its function of being a true hedge, but I would have liked to have had the prescience to put a stop loss there.
Right, right. But I mean, there was regulations and rules in place that just prevented you from dabbling like that, I would
Well, it was
imagine.
a private company, so we could do anything we wanted.
So they just wanted to split it right down the middle and okay,
That was wise. You know,
okay,
it took the form of the foreign exchange hedging that we did. You know,
okay.
where we hedged half of the budget, and we fixed half of the budget with FX futures.
Nice. So basically, in the end of the day, it was a break even
Yep.
or close to.
Yeah. Yeah. It was.
And did you
It
get at
reduced
least
volatility.
did you get a watch or a pat on the back?
I got to integrate that acquisition, and so then reduce our warehouse footprint nationwide by about 300,000 square feet by combining operations. And then I rolled up the insurance policy, reduced the premium by about 12%, even though our total exposure increased 3x. And that was all the right brain stuff. It's like instead of adding the two policies together and asking for a quote, why don't we restructure it? So, we've got 13 warehouses or 12 or 13, I don't remember. The
Yeah.
chances of all of them burning up at once were close to nothing. Okay, so why don't we 100% insure two of them, or some percentage, I don't recall exactly, and put the rest of them under an umbrella. The umbrella covered 100% of the warehouses in business continuity and all of that. But the costly part was the first tranche. The second tranche was much cheaper.
Right.
And so, yeah. And then we seasonalized it too. We seasonalized it to account for peaks and ebbs and flows in the business, which was highly seasonal.
So, to the listeners and viewers who have no idea what we're talking about, just take the transcript and read it or feed it into chat. Chat will kind of start summarizing exactly what this big brain has been talking about. Because when we get into finance terms, it's a little complicated.
Yeah, and so anyway, the bottom line is I learned a lot during that first gig. And when my boss got promoted to oversee a global division, I got a new general manager, and he and I didn't see eye to eye, so he walked me out the door. And then I bopped around for a few years, and my last gig was overseeing a $1.2 billion business of BASF, and that's when I had this idea that I'm working on right now.
Do you think I'm going to pull on a thread that you mentioned because I didn't get the experience of serving in just a strictly financial role after school. I kind of leveraged that experience and that schooling, that education into other things. But what I noticed, and I'm trying to get your take on it, is most of the strictly finance leaders that I've had experience with, it seems like they're in this box in their minds that you and I, having learned about their side of the wall, but bringing our skill set, allowed us to be very, very creative in problem solving and coming up with solutions that the finance people just wouldn't never normally entertain.
I think that's accurate. I mean, that's also why I found it so difficult to find a happy home after that first gig, which was a little company that we grew into a big company. And then, and somewhere during that journey, I came across this book called The First 90 Days. First 90 Days, written by Michael Watson, I think. And he talks about, okay, what's it like to transition into a new company as an executive? And one of the key takeaways for that from that book was companies exist in 4 stages of life. You've got a startup, you've got a sustaining success, you've got that glacial death, you know, the world taking over, um, and then you've got a turnaround. And we're generally happy in 1 or 2 of those stages of life. You know, the startup where you have to,
When you say we, do you mean the right brains?
people. People
People
find
generally gravitate towards one or two spaces within that life cycle. Okay.
right, right. You know, and action oriented, they like action, you know. So the startup and the turnaround is where you're happy because, you know, it's the ready, fire, aim type of thing.
Yep.
And in sustaining success, okay, that's kind of fun, but it's a little bit boring because it's, you know, you're keeping it going and it's
It's a
growing
little
well.
Groundhog Day-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and the third stage, that very mature industry, waiting to get overcome by the latest technology, is highly politicized and highly political. You can't get anything done. It's like pushing on a string. And those kinds of places are not for me. You know, some people love those kinds of,
Yeah. Yeah. They have clear
and
expectations and understanding of what they're going into work to do Monday through Friday. And they
hmm
don't want anything to don't deviate, don't go outside these guardrails. Just let me punch my clock and do my job and go home.
hmm
And there's nothing wrong with those people. I'm not saying there is, but I think Tino and I and many others live in those other spaces where, man, I don't want to hit me with something new today.
yeah. Or if you see something that's intrinsically right to do for the organization, or, you know, right to do, then give me the authorization to do it,
Right.
or at least present it.
Yeah, give me the agency, give me the
Yes.
ability to, you brought me in to affect change, not to deal with politics and bureaucracy. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Everyone's afraid to speak up in a meeting. Why are we having this meeting? We're doing another report. We're going round robin with the reports. What? Oh, oh, yes.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Your journey after high school, all that experience in the Paris days, and I mean, that's glamour and glitz, dude. I'd love to hear more about that sometime. But what do you think prepared you? What are one or two things that prepared you best to become on this founder journey that you're on? Because it's a different beast in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, certainly a confidence that you can do it, and the idea of being too big to extract out from out from between your ears, and so it becomes well. Let me phrase it a different way. As a manager, you're trying to improve operations. You know, let's say you're trying to improve operations by 1, 2, 3, maybe 5% a year. Well, when I came across this idea that I'm working on now, and it purely as a byproduct of changing the way things are done, is a 40% revenue savings, that's that's compelling. And because it's so compelling, as the anticipation is, as we succeed and get noticed, it will be copied.
No,
And so that will become a catalyst for an entire shift in the way things are done.
would you like to say disruptor?
Yeah, it's disruptive because it 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 exposes the lie of mass production as the most efficient way of getting things done.
Let's do this. Let's shift gears because I want to dig into Baru. Walk me through, for our audience and for me, Baru in the simplest terms. How does it work for the average person who's listening, who needs to say, maybe the easiest way for them to kind of relate is cabinetry?
Yeah, yeah. So well, let me tell you the origin story. I tried to get a bookcase for my house. I couldn't find one, and I discovered to get one made was a medieval process, and that was just frustrating to me because I knew that machinery and manufacturing had become digitized to a certain degree. And so when I came off that last role, that last full-time role with BASF, I started looking at the industry of cabinet making and furniture making. I decided it was never going to evolve on its own because for many reasons, culture, in too much interwovenness, it had become globalized, so it couldn't evolve. It was too hamstrung by process. But simultaneously, I discovered that there are thousands of underused CNC machines in the cabinet making shops all over the country. These CNC machines are digital cutting machines. They are code driven. So I was thinking if I could loop these underused machines into a virtual manufacturing network, we can eliminate long distance distribution costs. And that's that 40% revenue savings. And proximity also enables a lot more customization because you don't have to have packaging. You can just deliver it wrapped in a blanket in the case of furniture or cabinetry. And the fact that we're tapping into existing factories, idle capital assets. Our work orders look just like their own work orders. And so even though we're selling at a huge discount to market, it ranging between 20% less and 60% less, depending on who we're getting compared against. We're focused on cabinetry right now.
Let
Our
me
manufacturer.
try to massage a little bit here. Let's step back and think about the audience that's listening. They don't have a clue. I've got my
Yeah.
phone. I'm on baru.com. And how is baru.com? Because I completely love this whole concept. I can't
Well, let me
love it.
tell you about a pending customer, and
Okay.
they just bought a condo in Menlo Park. Given the size and given the fact it's on Sand Hill Road, they probably bought it for $800,000. Total gut rehab. It hasn't been remodeled since it was built. So I met one of the owners at a coffee meeting. He called and said, "Hey, do you want to take a look at this kitchen project we've got?" Of course we did, of course. And so they had a design. I replicated their design in our online configurator, our shopping cart function. I customized all the cabinets the way they wanted per the drawings. And it was significantly less than market. They are able to get exactly what they want in the right colors that they choose for a much more affordable and price and a lot more efficiently. Because the traditional process is you send a rough drawing to a cabinet maker, and then you go back and forth with that cabinet maker until you're both happy. There's still the risk that the drawing doesn't represent what they will deliver because it's a manual process and people are in between, that approved drawing and the actual manufacturing. And that manual process is extremely inefficient and expensive. That's that medieval process.
Right.
Okay. Our process is through our e-commerce site. You can customize it on demand. You can customize it yourself, or your contractor can customize it, or your designer can customize it. And that's already manufacturing ready. That's producing the code that drives the machines dynamically. So it's that ability to stay in control of not only the manufacturing process for the products you want, but also to stay in control of pricing because it's super transparent. You choose this material, it costs this much. You choose a more luxurious material, it costs a little bit more. It's not obfuscated by the typical industry branding and positioning.
And the layers who are all putting their little piece on,
Right.
putting their little piece on. I mean, you're going direct from me or my contractor or my designer designing everything straight to the machine that builds it,
Hmm.
and then it's shipped to the house, and then my contractor takes over or I take over and we install it. Done.
That's right.
Easy
That's right.
peasy.
That's
And
right.
at a 40% on average reduced rate.
Yes.
Oh,
And
and
here's
it's
the
local. It's localized.
it's local, which reduces time, cost, and risk.
And the manufacturers love it because you're filling up idle time on their side
Hmm.
with jobs that they wouldn't traditionally get necessarily.
They wouldn't be able to compete at our price point, and that notwithstanding that, they're earning between 70 and 90% pre-tax margins. They're earning between 14 and 18 times their typical profits.
So they love it. They'd rather have you as their one source of sales funnel because they're going to have higher margins on every job that you're bringing to them.
They will us that all of that assumes that the rest of their organization is paid by their normal business.
Right.
We're just
Okay.
gravy on the pre-tax line.
Right. But no, there isn't a shop that, at least in my experience, you've seen way more than I have. There's no shop running 24/7.
No,
No,
certainly not on their machines.
no.
Their machines are generally running an hour or two a day because that's their break-even rate. You buy it if you can run your machine an hour
And
because
is Baru bypassing the manufacturer's need because sometimes they're trying to find these CNC operators to code the machines and do all this other stuff. You're bypassing right by that. So
yeah,
there's really no need for their higher priced employee to touch that job. It's fed automatically in the machine goes.
yeah. They open our file, they post the code to the machine, they wait for the materials to arrive, they schedule it into the normal workflow. We pay them as soon as it's done.
All right, let's make it personal because I think this is bigger, and I'm sure you've thought of this. Uh, because I think there's something more in what you're doing than cabinetry
You know,
and
we're
even
building a
furniture.
digital manufacturing platform.
Yeah. And where I'm going to try to take it is I can't find anyone to do my house. Don't tell me that I can't produce structured paneled walls that just get shipped flat stacked on a trailer and I've got a contractor with a crane stand them up, put them in place, and we can do this with houses, but we'll come into that. Here's where my mind starts to go. It's fascinating how you're tapping into underutilized capacity in manufacturing. It makes me wonder, is Baru really a cabinetry company or is it something much bigger, like an on-demand platform for all kinds of custom manufacturing? Do you see it evolving that way?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm forming the organization and the platform to accommodate future category expansion, you know, it jumping into categories. But the whole point is if you can have if the manufacturing process is digital, you should be able to connect what someone wants to local machine instructions or someone's machine instructions directly. You know, the intelligence is in the library and how you engineer the library of products.
Explain that.
So for any given cabinet model that we have, you can change it into millions of variants by simply changing the dimensions, height, width, depth, color, door style, material, and all of that is on demand at the customer level. So it becomes very custom for that user, for that shopper, whereas from our viewpoint, it's just one model with a bunch of variables that you're able to change within the model. It's pre-engineered parametrically. So it has intelligence as you scale a cabinet from tall to shorter, some of the shelves get removed automatically, things
Yep.
like that. And
Okay.
and so you know, since we built the library that way, we could even use generative design. You can go from Gen AI to purchase to delivery without people in between.
Oh, that's beautiful. That you already took it where I was gonna try to go with some of this stuff. So you already got that weaved in.
Hmm. And then if you overlay AR and VR, augmented and virtual reality, as that part of that approval and modification process of the product, we actually were awarded a patent on that.
So you're working with me, I'm the homeowner or I'm the business owner, I'm building multi-units, whatever. I can basically put on some glasses or VR and you're gonna do a walkthrough and start showing me your design and what we're actually doing.
Yeah, and then,
Oh, it's
you'll be able
beautiful.
to change it on demand. I want this I want this more narrow, and the guy behind the green curtain makes that thing more narrow as you watch it get more narrow, and or maybe you do it with controllers. Unlikely.
Haptic gloves. Come on, let's jump ahead, man. Haptic gloves. Just hand gestures in the air and everything. It's total Iron Man, dude. I love it.
But the that whole point is, we have a patent for the method and system of custom manufacturing using AR and VR. So we built we've it's what you see is what you get manufacturing now without.
So I'm assuming, and we know what that spells, but you and I kind of reconnected when I was attempting to buy a custom cabinet millwork and door shop. And I too saw many of the antiquated, outdated systems in place that was all paper based. It was ridiculous. And how we could streamline things with simple like CNCs and automated efforts and bring in tech. What I'm wondering is we're talking about cabinetry, but many of the shops that I visited, they weren't just cabinets, they were millwork, they were some furniture, and there were doors. Can Baru also handle that? So let's say I want a specific type of trim, or I don't want a 6 panel door, I want a 10 panel door.
We can do that as long as we can buy those. As long as we can orchestrate. As long as there's no manual work involved. If what the customer wants translates cleanly onto a purchase order, then we can do it.
So as long as the shop that you're integrated with locally can deliver, because it's all it's code based. Basically, I know when was testing certain CNC machines, I could basically put in the wood and I'd get trim, or I'd put in the wood and I'd get a door. And all I had to do is have my CNC guys program that machine.
Yeah.
So,
To increase quality control, we prefer to buy from factories. So the local cabinet maker, they may cut the plywood for the boxes and do the assembly, but any fancy doors will buy from a specialized door manufacturer
okay.
because they have the processes and the automation and the high throughput that don't create bottlenecks.
Oh, okay. Yep. So you're still struggling with the local small player.
Yeah, the local small player is fundamental to eliminate distribution cost because shipping big, heavy, damage-prone boxes of air is expensive. So if we can make that local, then the doors can come from a slightly further distance.
Now, are these assembled or are they flat stacked?
Generally, our customers want them assembled.
Okay. All right. And then the doors show up separately so they don't get all busted up in transport, which tends to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is there any other things you want to touch on with that whole process?
No, it's really thinking through the, what can you create? We aspire to be like DoorDash. You receive a customer order in cash, and then you issue POs and other files on the other end. And then we track it through a workflow, which kind of looks like the Domino's pizza tracker. So everyone knows where the process is. And that's what we aspire to. And we're starting with cabinetry because it's the easy entry point. It's $100 billion industry that's woefully inefficient. Yeah, but it's also closet systems, and our price level is we've structured the business, the revenue model, so that we can sell direct to consumer, we can sell through a channel partner with a trade discount, or they can white label it as their own and sell it at market prices.
Interesting. All right, I want to get more into your founder's journey. So let me throw this at you. One thing I've noticed in my own ventures is that remote teams are amazing in some ways, and I'm assuming that many of your internal team at Baru is remote. They're dispersed
Everyone,
all over the place.
everyone.
Okay, same thing on my end. A lot of the ventures that I'm working with. But while they're amazing in some ways, I feel they can also kill that spontaneous spark. Those off the cuff, I'll call them coffee machine moments that truly, in my opinion, matter. How do you keep that creative energy alive inside a Baru, especially in a remote first or hybrid environment?
I don't know. I'm working on that. Um, partly it's hiring the right people, and partly it's allowing communications to be open and encouraging it.
Have you tried like certain types of virtual meetups where we've tried this once based off of a mentor that was advising me. He said, just do a virtual meetup, a party. Everybody can have a drink. They can have a little thing. It's all, you put it up on some big screens or whatever, or their laptops, but it's some way on a biweekly basis or some regular cadence meeting that gives everybody the ability to just kind of hang. And
No, because we've never been at that stage where so my colleagues are still very part-time. They're working nights and weekends and asynchronously. And so we haven't, this year, I've got a line of sight to get into the mid to high seven-figure numbers, and then we'll all be fully employed, and we'll have better overlap on timing, and then we'll try different things, including having a travel budget.
what phase are you in? Are you pre-seed?
We've raised just over half a million in angel funding, and yeah, and we've had close to that much in beta revenues,
Okay.
and we're bootstrapping right now. I wouldn't mind a little bit of go-to-market financing. It would facilitate things, but
How much more do you need to go to market?
I think we could accomplish perpetual growth with between 250. A minimum of 250 eliminates a huge amount of go-to-market risk. And with 250, that means we'll get to 7.5 million within the first 12 months, and 2.5 million is our portion. We can reinvest that 2.5 million to do a big bang in the following year in 10 to 15 metro areas, and then call that next year average 125 projects a month. That'll be 40 million. 14 million is reinvestable.
So what's next for Baru? What are you working on right now? What big shifts or moves are on the horizon?
Continue to accelerate this flywheel of interest in the Bay Area, because to get to that 7.5 million in the first year goal is 25 projects a month. So imagine that's 200 contractors and architects that know about us. And if each one of them buys one project every 8 months, that's our 25 a month. But we already have in the pipeline 2 large multifamilies, which will far exceed the average order value. Or it'll bump it up
Yeah.
significantly. To individual residences. And each time we get one of those, we introduce a new contractor to Baru, and they become our repeat buyers. We've already seen that occur.
What can I do to help?
If you know anyone, that touches cabinetry, whether they're property developers or real estate agents or commercial property agents that need a lot of TI work done, tenant improvement work done in the Bay Area, that would be super useful. Angel investors, if they allocate like 2% of their self-directed IRA, and if we fail, then it'll disappear in market noise over the 5-year term. If we succeed, we return some insane multiple that is significantly noticeable.
Significantly, because I don't think most listeners might be able to grasp just how disruptive this is.
Yeah, so this year, I've been raising at a sub $10 million enterprise value. It's all forward-looking, startup valuation. Achieving this year's goal will take our valuation to 30. Achieving next year's goal, take the valuation to 160, between 160 and 200.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue to reinvest our operating cash flows into growth. This could go, overseas. All we're doing is producing code and sending it out, and that's an automated process.
Yeah, and you're just starting with cabinetry.
Yes.
And I think you and I both know, you probably best of everybody, where this could potentially lead.
Even if it's just cabinetry, in the U.S., it's $100 billion industry.
Yeah, but it won't be just cabinetry. Once you reach that 100 million mark in just cabinetry, you're already looking at multiple different avenues.
That's correct.
And what I keep envisioning is I'm a year away, not even a year away from putting on some AR glasses, looking at my empty lot and designing my house and then sending that through my phone over to Baru, and Baru's building my damn house basically for me. Could be people. You don't know.
I hesitate to say that we'll get into home building because you've got intricacies around local codes and things like that make it really hard to standardize. But
yeah, but it's
you're
local
right.
manufacering. It's
You're
all localized.
I get it. That's absolutely true. It's especially as more and more of these modular wall factories pop up all over the map, that sounds like an idle asset to me.
Yeah, and the home prices to build a house right now is absolutely, and I'm gonna say this, folks, cover your ears if you're gonna be offended, goddamn ridiculous. Ridiculous, the prices. Budgets have 60, 70, 80, doubled since COVID. And what I'm learning in my research is manufactured. I hate saying that now because they've taken manufactured home and put it over here where a trailer exists now. So I've got to use prefab, modular, but a prefab modular home, which I actually live in right now, this 5-bedroom, 4-bath, humongous home is actually a prefab house. We found out there's nothing wrong with them. And they're cheaper. They come in, they go up quicker, and contractors who are experienced with them love them. They have to have more jobs throughout the year because they're quicker. They don't love the fact that instead of doing 4 homes and they're making all their money, now they're gonna do 10 homes, but they do love it if they have the right teams. So, I'm just saying that I see this future where this this new manufacturing platform that you've hijacked basically benefits not only the consumer, but the manufacturer. I, I can't wait. That's why I've been your biggest fan for the last, how long we been on this journey? How long you been on this? 5, 6, 7 years? I don't even
You gotta be a
remember now.
certain you gotta be a certain level of stupid.
It's the founder's edge, man. That's if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. I don't There's only those of us that have bled in the trenches of founding and starting a company from scratch who get it, who understand. We can share the war stories and the hugs and the tears and the screaming into a pillow and the successes. I mean, there's not many are going to get it, but I do, and I appreciate you, buddy. And if I could say one thing to someone who's scared to jump but knows they're meant to build something, I appreciate you, man, for everything that you do. Tino, this was powerful. I love how your story brings both sides of the brain together, creative, operational, visionary, and shows people that you don't have to live in just one world, that you can build bridges. Appreciate you, brother. Can't wait to see where Baru goes next. Where can people find you?
Hellobaru.com. They can email me at tino@hellobaru.com.
Okay. And I'll put that down in the description. And dude, I appreciate you. Seriously. Thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for showing up raw, unfiltered. And this is Non-Filtered, the podcast. Talk soon, buddy.
Thanks, Adam.